I have a lot of observations already. This thing is wild. It might actually be one of the biggest swords we have here now.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
I want to see how functional it is.
Shadiversity.
Greetings, I'm Shad.
And greetings, I'm Tyranth.
And Tyranth, we have done many videos on carbon fiber, exploring its possible application into weapons, and we're at a point where we need to ask ourselves a question. Has the project failed?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say we've done a lot to start with.
More than most people.
We've done a couple, yeah. But it has been, like, I would say over a year since the last integration. No, that's not the right word. Integer. The last iteration. That's it. Whoa, it's been a long day. The last iteration of the carbon fiber giant large sword project. So we thought, why not just finish it out and give kind of like an update and where things are at?
Well, I mean, look, there's always hope that we can still do, continue the project on. The problem is it takes a lot of time and money investment.
The problem is reality.
Reality, yes. And YouTube is not incentivizing or justifying investing in, such big projects like that. Unfortunately. Not to say never. I mean, we have such a great, person helping us out. James is an absolute legend, and so there's still potential that something might go ahead. I don't necessarily like to, only take advantage of James in that sense, where he's being the main person making this. He's the expert though. He knows what to do, and we have made some really interesting stuff that we have been able to learn a decent amount from, and we want to give kind of our thoughts on what we have learned, how viable are carbon fiber swords from our own test and experimentation, and an update on where it's at. And we're not sure if it will be able to go ahead, but there's still hope. There's still hope.
It probably won't. Like, I mean, let's be real here. Okay.
I'm a hopeful person.
I mean, all right, let's give you guys a recap before we go into any of the new stuff. So originally we created this one. Well, I created this one here. Literally, it has the date.
We had input. What is this?
Yeah, sure.
Yes, we did.
I actually put the date on it from when we did it. The 26th of the 4th, 2023. So it's been quite a while since we did this project. And this was
a success.
I would call this a success.
Yes.
It actually held up really well. There was a lot of interesting dynamics at play here. Like, we literally couldn't put enough force into it to break it, so we had to induce a failure.
Had to brace it.
I thought that was just an interesting concept in general, right?
Exactly. And then that was a matter of scale. Could you scale this up? And we tried a couple of, Well,
this is where things got interesting, because after we did this one, this was my first time working with carbon fiber, and obviously I'm not like a carbon fiber expert, but maybe I should save this observation for a little bit later, but we got approached by James, who said he's a carbon fiber professor. He teaches it, and he had a whole bunch of ideas, a whole bunch of different ways we could do it, and so he kind of took the lead on how to make these things, and that's when we started getting into more of the next iteration of it.
And that is making the layering more complex with different weaves, different inserts like Soric cores, which are a type of foam insert core, which adds rigidity but lowers weight.
And we should mention that the entire point of all of this process, starting from the dagger going up to this larger sword, was all to create Shad's Titan sword. Like, that was the whole. That's the whole point. A functional giant sword,
and we currently just don't have the means.
You said the words in that row, so I can't. I created a functional giant sword first. Anyway, sorry. I'm just being petty. Anyway.
He really is.
James was able to create. Well, not this one, actually. This is actually the second version that I fixed.
Because we made one first that was. Well, even before then, there was that floppy one that we tried. Remember? Like, there was a couple of attempts, and. Remember when we went there, he already had a first
right, yes.
That were a bit more floppy, and so there was a couple of iterations where we're just trying to figure out how to get the rigidity correct in it.
And this was the one that he ended up sending. I actually think that he still has one of them. Like, there's still one more, so blank.
We still might be able to. That's what I mean. I still think there's
hope.
But
it's the same sword as this. Like, yes. I think we could do it up and we could create another version, but it's going to be the same thing. It's exactly the same thing.
This week's exclusive video, I talk about the ingenious design element of the falchion. Like, they've done something here on this sword
not many people realize, okay, they might not notice or know why it's designed specifically this way. There's something specific, scientific even, to explain why it has this design, and this is the Conyers or Cluny falchion, and why it's so clever and how it helps its function so well. That's the exclusive video. You get access for it if you sign up on channel memberships, Patreon, or Subscribestar, and it's $1 a month. You get these dedicated, sometimes deep dive videos, behind the scene videos, awesome stuff, all the backlog. You get access to it all, and you help us keep going because you are the guys that are sustaining us. Views don't mean anything at this point on YouTube. We're making content for our supporters, and you get great stuff like this, and you enable us to keep making the content you're watching right now. So thank you for everyone who's supporting. Please consider signing up to get the exclusive, and we'll get back to the video.
We discovered some interesting things with this. So first part was it broke at the tang, essentially.
Yeah, well, we did a much more traditional longsword configuration, and it did have some interesting potential, man.
It really did. Like
really
that's what
light, long.
1.5! That was bang on!
This sword here weighs 1.5 kilos.
Holy crap.
That's what I think we can already kind of conclude from our experiments, that there is a way to make this work. We've proven that there's potential, that you can make like a functional sword that was really big but way lighter than what it should be for its size, that could cut and could be used. Where we ran into difficulty was overall durability, and I think that's a matter of execution, not concept.
Maybe. So the issues that I saw, right, was after the first version, we obviously broke at the tank.
And that'd do it.
And the way that we broke was actually there. Relatively speaking, now James is the expert in this, he knows, but there is not much carbon fiber, relatively speaking. There's a lot more Soric cores, which are like a foam core. There's even some Kevlar in it and stuff like that. So there's actually relatively not much carbon fiber. Now, I don't know if that's going to make it better or worse. Again, he's the expert, but that was what stood out to me, because it actually broke in the actual cores, right? The foam cores. And so this was the second iteration that I put together, which was essentially clamping a handle to the blade. Obviously, I removed the crossguard because we didn't need it at this point, but this one held up way better. Like, this was actually able to handle the stresses.
Exactly.
All that sort of
it held together here, but that's where we came into weaknesses here. The insert blades got dislodged under a huge impact, and it turned out they just weren't thick enough, and we could cut through them.
Yeah, but there was a couple of issues here. First off, the steel wasn't thick enough. I told you so, Shad. There was also issues with it just doesn't bond to it very well.
You can't help yourself.
Oh, I can't, because we went back and forth on this so long. I'm making the list
again. I have a list of all the times when Tyranth is wrong, and so I'm making it again.
But one of the biggest issues was the delamination, right? The carbon fiber and the Kevlar and even the Soric cores would all just kind of explode from one another.
But what's interesting is that we did not get that on this.
That's kind of what I mentioned at the start, where I want to come back to this thought. The thought that I've had is, on the original one that I made, where it's just pure carbon fiber, it held up to everything. Now, there is a very important caveat here, is that scalability does affect things.
It would be really floppy.
How this handles with a short dagger versus a giant sword are completely two different beasts. But
I think you could make a long sword.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Out of just pure carbon fiber.
I think... I don't know, maybe...
With an insert blade, we're talking.
Specifically how we inserted the blade on this one, it held up very well, and it performed very well. We had to induce the failure. So, I don't know, maybe we abandoned this particular manufacturing method too early on or something. Because this is one of those things where a lot of people talk about the theoretical side of something, and I get it. They know more about these particular, these composite materials. I mean, sure. But in reality, when they test it, it's like, well... This
actually held up...
It held up awesome.
Against abuse a bit better than the carbon fiber thing.
Yeah.
Now, carbon fiber is not cheap, and that's one of the barriers that we have with this project. And James has been great because he's been able to help us out with material. But if we had the means to continue, which we still very well might, James is still willing to help us out. But I'm not the type of person to hound him on it because he's giving his time freely, and that's something that I'm not going to demand from him as a result or chase him up constantly about it, right? And I'm just grateful for whatever time he's been able to offer to help us out in that regard. And so I still think he's keen and interested. And if we were to go ahead, I think we might need to just explore solid carbon fiber.
Or at least just more carbon fiber.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of the designs that we've done so far, they just don't have as much carbon fiber.
Well, that's what I mean about our tests have shown that I think there is potential and possibility with this concept. It's just in execution, it's you need to keep trying different iterations till you find the one that works best.
Yeah.
And then that means money and constantly making new ones and new ones and new ones, which unfortunately the time has not been, or the funds have not been around to continue doing that. But from what we have done, we have, like I said, I think shown that this is possible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, I think that you could probably make it work. I just don't know if I would. Is it better, you know? Because, like, making a carbon fiber longsword, is that better
If
than...
it can be as functional as a regular longsword, but be half the weight for the same size, that would make a very deadly sword.
But the thing is, you're always going to have those, like, drawbacks, those compromises we're making, which in the example of a longsword is probably going to be its durability.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think there's still a way, but it would take a lot of more time and research and investment.
Because, again, if we circle back to what the whole point of this project to begin was, it was to make a giant sword, a functional giant sword, right? Now, the problem is we can't make a functional giant one. We couldn't at that time make a functional giant sword because using steel, obviously, it's just going to be too heavy, too slow. It's not going to work, right? So that's why Shad wanted to use the carbon fiber. That's where it has a use case, where you can't do it with another material, or couldn't do it with another material.
Do you think like the Titan sword design could work in aluminium?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Because obviously, like, one of my biggest takeaways from my giant sword project was, and I did not expect this, and it's the flex. There was some insane flex, and it stayed true, and I couldn't believe it. And I think that there is enough there. It just depends on the thicknesses you go for and stuff like that. The biggest issue that I ran into was attaching the blades. Like, it's just not...
Yeah. That would be
one of the issues I ran into with my project was the order of operations. Because I put my bevels in first, it meant that I had to grind the bevels to a slight... That's dumb.
a big pain.
But it's because I did it in a bad order. But if you were to do that project from the start, I would grind those slots in first. And then I think it's more achievable to put the steel in.
Well, guys, what do you think? Because if you've seen, our past carbon fiber, project videos, do you agree with us that there's potential that like a functional carbon fiber sword could, be made?
But again, I think it just needs to be a giant... Like, it needs to justify why it exists. That's the most important thing a weapon has. Is
it's in stages, and I think a longsword is very possible, and I think it would justify itself, because if we could, like I said, a longsword that is just as tough, but half the weight, would be deadly as hell.
Because
I think so much faster in combat.
I think this one could have probably justified its existence if it was strong enough. Because it was pretty big.
It was.
And it was very light for its size. The problem where it had its issues was obviously its durability. Yeah. So it's one of those things where if you can't justify why something should exist, there's a reason why it shouldn't exist. And the thing is with, Zweihanders and Montantes, they're really good. They're just good.
They're great. I love them. Guys, what do you think? Please let us know. I'm interested to hear your feedback and thoughts. And if you haven't seen our carbon fiber, videos, I am confident we will still have more carbon fiber content going in the future. James is still, he likes helping, us out and making these things.
I'll put it to you guys. I'm pretty sure that James does have one more of those bigger blades that we could finish off. I just don't know what we would do with
Well,
them.
It's the same as that. So we already kind of know.
We know its durability. We know, so it depends what you guys would want to see with that. Yeah.
But check out the videos where we put these things to the test, and let us know what you think in the comments, guys.